Welcome to the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast, your place for truckside chats and insights into the retriever game. Whether you're just getting started or you're a seasoned handler, this podcast is another resource for tips, tricks, and insights from both the amateurs and professional trainers' perspectives. Each week, we'll dive into the nitty-gritty of retriever training, sharing stories of success, overcoming challenges, and forging stronger bonds with our dogs. This is the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast. I'm Chris Rudd, your host, fellow retriever enthusiast, and student of the game. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of the Hunt Test Hobo Podcast. And today is going to be a really good one. Got another multi-crown champion on the podcast today, Mr. Ron Anderson. Yeah, I've been following Ron. He's like a TV star to me. Like I've been watching Ron, and I think I first saw you running Smoke, and maybe Bella. I can't remember if I watched, like I was into YouTube when, yeah, for sure I watched it when she won the amateur, and I had a Fox puppy that's a little bit younger than Rip, so I was like really into watching Rip. But welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you about all these fun dogs that you've had, as well as just your journey in the retriever game. And I was telling you this, but I figure like the listeners will kind of get a kick out of this. I feel like I've lined up some really I've had some great guests on the podcast, and I'm not saying that anybody that's been on previously hasn't been a great guest, but for whatever reason, I was sitting by the fire and I just said, I'm going to just reach out to everybody that I've really wanted to have on the podcast and see if they all can get on. And you are one of them. Getting Bill Hillman has been somebody I've wanted to get on. Just had Bill on, wanted to get Ray Vogt on, got Ray on, and then got Pat Burns coming on too. So I got all of you guys on, and then I texted Tyler, my buddy Tyler, and I said, here's the guests that are lined up. If you guys got any questions, hit them up. And Tyler said, well, when are you going to get some really good ones on? These are all beginners. And I just started laughing so hard. I was like, well, before we get too deep in the podcast, I want to thank our sponsor, Purina. With Ray coming on, I'm actually doing Ray's podcast tomorrow. So want to thank Purina Pro Plan for sponsoring the Hunt Test Hobo podcast, as well as doing all the great things for the retriever game, especially in the HRC. So thank you very much to Purina Pro Plan. And if you're looking for a really solid, competitive dog food to feed, don't look any further than Purina Pro Plan. So, well, Ron, I listen. I think I've heard you on the SRS podcast, and I'm not gonna lie, I probably listened to it I got to be double digits. Whenever, because there was a big gap for me. Maybe a year and a half ago, where there wasn't a lot of podcast content coming out. Like the Doghouse was doing a lot. They kind of stalled. They stall out every summer, because they're busy running dogs doing their thing. And I was going through and just listening to the SRS people that I really looked up to. So you, Mike Gibson, Durance's podcast, or no, it wasn't Durance's on that one, but Durance was doing that YouTube series that he did with Jake Latondras. And I was just going through those things over and over and over. So that I've heard that podcast, but for those that haven't, kind of give us the background on how you got into the retriever game, and I always say this, give us the quick synopsis that it takes 20 minutes, and that's okay. So just give me the synopsis of how you got in the retriever game, and let's go from there.
All right, I can do that, and I hope I don't take up too much time, because I realized today, because I knew you were going to ask me that question, so I started thinking back to when I got my first dog. And she was that was 1995. So now I've officially been on retrievers and have been training retrievers, I guess, counting her for the only one I had at the time, for 30 years now, which is kind of scary. But wow. To me, looking back, it doesn't feel like it's nearly been that long, but it's been 30 years.
Man,
so
go ahead.
And how I got into it, I guess, is I grew up. I live in Ethel, Louisiana. I grew up on a dairy farm and a beef cattle operation. And that's what I did all through childhood. So, of course, we had dogs. We had cow dogs. We had a few squirrel dogs, and we had deer dogs and stuff like that. But, it's a big deer hunter. Never got into waterfowl hunting. Well, my sister married, once I was in college, my sister married a guy from South Louisiana who was a big duck hunter. And he goes, oh, you got to go try a duck hunt. I was like, we'll go see, whatever. So, long story short, my dad and I we're going with this guy that my dad's friends with, and my brother-in-law's friends with, Cleveland Trahan. We're in the marsh. He puts us in this blind. He goes, look, whatever you do, don't get out the blind. Shoot them, and I'll come pick them up. I'll bring the dogs. Like, okay, whatever. So, needless to say, we probably shot 2 boxes of shells, and we knocked down 2 ducks. I think both fell in the marsh behind us. He pulls up, and I said, man, I don't know if you're gonna find them. There's one over there. And there's one over here. He pulls on the boat, stands on the bow of the boat, kicks the dog off on back, blows a couple whistles, casts here, there, comes back with the duck. Points him the other way, same thing. I was like, that is the coolest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. And needless to say, probably within the first couple months, I talked my parents into buying a puppy for me for $150 that was down the street from us presently at LSU. That litter I found in the paper for $150, and they bought that puppy for me, Maddie. Moved her in my apartment where we weren't supposed to have. So me and my college roommate, Casey Parker, who now does dogs, raised her, hid her from everybody. Was a great. Girls loved her. They loved to take the dog on the walks and all that kind of thing. Anyway, so started training, hunted with her a time or two, a couple years actually. Then got word of a thing called Amy River Hunting Retriever Club. What is this about? Went to a hunt test. I was like, watched a finished test. I'm like, this is unbelievable. Started advancing. Of course, started off bought the Water Dog book. That's all you had back then was books. Mm-hmm. And like you could go and pull up YouTubes and podcasts and all this stuff and get this information. So got with a group and next thing met some. That's actually a few months later. That's how I met Chuck McCall and Scott Arsenault. We had a fun day for the hunt test and then got into that, and I've made. The rest is kind of history. Got into the grand, started running HRC, bought another dog as a puppy because of course Maddie didn't have a whole lot of pedigree, but she did pretty good. And then ran my first grand in '99, and needless to say, the dog Bo, he passed away unexpectedly, really young. So had Bella, and Bella did not pass in '99, but then started passing after that. Maddie started passing after that, and she retired with 7 grand passes and master titles, and then got another dog and kept wanting to, and then started into seeing more about, ran master tests. And then, of course, like everybody else, saw the great outdoor games and like, man, this is really neat. These are some people that I see at the Grand that are on here. And, and this is Danny Farmer, and this is, Chris Aiken and these guys. And so they had a dog named Boss was the first dog that I ran in an SRS. They had one, 2005, first SRS, in the Bonacary Spillway. We all went, me, Chuck, and I think Scott and whoever else had a couple dogs to run. Man, had a great first series, and it was a field trial. It wasn't really much of a field trial looking back. Did well. It was like a single and a wipeout and a big retire. Did well. Then we move on to a hunt test. Like, man, we got them right where I want them here. I was in like 5th place, and I think I'm still trying to handle Boss on that long bird because they never stop. So anyway. And then just kept progressing from there. Ran another one in 2007 because they weren't like they are now. There weren't that many around. Mm-hmm. And then took a break from that for a while from the SRS game. And then in 2013 had a dog that I had bought. He qualified all age field trial washout basically, Boomer. And Chuck McCall and I went to Pin Oak, and they had their first one they've had, and it was in 2013. Well, he came in second in the Open, and I came in second in the AM, and we qualified for the Crown, went to the Crown. That was, like I said, 2013, and I have qualified and run in every Crown since 2013. So it took from 2013 to 2018 to win one, yeah. But it's been a heck of a ride, and just keep progressing. Now I have and I have Smoke, of course, that I've run in some field trials, and now I dabble and still do some of the hunt test stuff, primarily doing SRS and field trials, and having some success with ripping the field trial game. It's a lot of fun. So
absolutely. When you said 30 years doing the dog game, I have tended to every 10 years switch hobbies. That's just kind of been what I've done, and we're not quite. I don't know. I think it's like 6 or 7 years. If I've been training dogs, probably I think it's 7 years. And my wife said, "Well, you're getting close to that 10-year mark. Are you gonna, are we switching hobbies?" I was like, "Absolutely not. We got to buy more dogs, like more dogs."
There you go. Yeah,
Go ahead.
And that's what people ask me about the, like, what do you do for a hobby? Well, I train and run retrievers. What else you do? That's all I do. I work, I train retrievers, and I do with my kids. And I call it a hobby. My wife calls it more of an obsession, and she's probably more accurate than it is as a hobby because it's engulfed me, and it's what I love to do.
Are you one of those that loves the training just as much as like the actual competition, or is it like training you got to get through it to run the competitions? Where are you kind of on that spectrum?
Oh, to be honest, I probably love to train more than I do to run. Love training. I mean, if you look at it, I train 5 days a week, plus or minus, some a little bit more, some a little bit less, depending. And then, but you only run, I don't know, 3 weekends a month. And mainly in the fall now, not in the spring, not much now. So, but I love to train. I love to see dogs get better. I love to train on concepts and different things, and then see them when it clicks. And I love to try new things. I love to, and that's the way the sport is. It's constantly pushing and to get better and do better. And get better because the dogs are getting better, the handlers are getting better, the tests are getting harder. So yeah, so I do enjoy training a lot.
Yeah, really, really good. So what's your day job when you're not training dogs?
I work for a bank. I work for Hancock Whitney Bank, and which is kind of funny. I've worked for them. I've trained dogs for 37 years, and I've worked for the same bank for 27. Or I've trained dogs for 30 years. I've worked for the same bank for 27 years now. Okay. So I've stuck with that. I'm a residential construction lender. I'm very fortunate that I've worked with them and have a company that I've worked long enough that I've got enough freedom to do some of the dog stuff when I can and what I can, which is what so it works out well. So that's what I do. I do residential construction loans to contractors, building spec and pre-sold houses, and developing subdivisions.
Nice. Yeah, I had a different job up until maybe a year. I guess it's coming up to a year in September. I switched jobs, and like the most appealing part of it was it's 100% remote, and they're extremely flexible. Like I cannot believe how flexible they are. Wow. And so I was like super excited for this year. I was going to really hit the SRS game pretty hard because in years past I've always had other things going on, and literally like in mid-May, winter came into heat and we bred her, and I was like, well, there goes the entire season. But you got to do those things to pay the game. So at least for me.
So mid-May, so you should be having puppies pretty quick.
Yeah, we're so what's it, the 10th? We're 11 days out.
11 days, okay.
11 days out. So it's gonna, and I got like a ton of house projects to do now because this is the first, because we moved in October. I think we moved in here, and we actually had a litter on the ground at my parents' house. They were born at my parents' house because we were between houses for about 3 months, but by the time we moved them here, they were out of the whelping box and doing the whole, the whole thing. So we had them in the garage, and it was the perfect time. It was October. It wasn't hot. It wasn't too cold. Just they're in the garage, and it worked out good. But now I'm like, where are we going to whelp these puppies at? And it's literally the living room, which is I think like the best option right now. Or I do it right here, and I build out my office downstairs because I work from home, so I gotta have a pretty stable office situation. So I think that's what this weekend is going to be. I'm going to have to put 2 walls up and a barn door and make an office, which wouldn't be too bad because this window, right? You can't see it, but there's a window right here, and it faces east. And every morning in the summer when it's been pretty hot up here, like 95 without any humidity, and we're so humid here. Like this turns into an oven up here with that east wind. This house was built in 1990 or 1890, so the HVAC system is not the most efficient system in the world. So anyway, I'm excited to go to the basement. It'll be really good.
Yeah, I understand that. my parents' house, and the first house that we lived in was built. Our other house was built in 1940 or so. So I understand that sounds like Louisiana heat. That's 95. We're 95 plus every day.
Every day.
It's humid.
It was like 3 weeks of it. I was like, this is not a normal Illinois weather. And it's been like 80 to 84. And I'm like, this is gorgeous. Like I had to train on the extreme ends of the day just because of that. But anyway, nobody cares about that. So we'll move on. But the puppies are coming soon. That was the whole point. The puppies are coming soon.
Nice.
And I got a whole lot of work to do to get ready for them. But she's massive already, even with 11 days left. So I'm like, we had 10 the first litter and 5 the second litter. I think we're trending towards more of the first litter, at least I hope. But we'll see when we do next. Yeah, I think 8, because 10 she was overwhelmed. Like 10, and being her first litter, she was like, this is like, it was a lot. It was a lot on us to make sure every puppy was gaining weight. It was a whole lot more work. Having 5 puppies was like, when they outnumber the nipples, that's when it's hard.
That's right. Yeah. 8's a good number.
8's a good number. Yeah, as long as all the nipples work,
That's true.
But how many litters have you done? I know you did Bella's litter.
I did. Well, actually, and that reminded me, you talk about where to have them, because the first time, like I said, I had Maddie. I bred her a few times, and we raised them. We had a screen porch, so we raised them on the screen porch, and just queened it in because it was cold the first time, and that was right outside our bedroom, and so we could hear them. Mm-hmm. And then next time we raised them in the house, and that's in the corner of a room, which is all tile. But yeah, so. News to say, and then I had a string of male dogs for a while, so I didn't raise any litters. And when I decided to do the Bella litter, I talked to my wife about it, and I said, Bella's getting on up there, and she's got a strange heat cycle, and she's about to come in. I think now's the time we got to pull the trigger. And she goes, well, you can do what you want to, but we're not raising the litter. So I actually had Grace Williams whelp the litter for me. So I don't know if you know Grace or not, but
I think I do know Grace. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. So she's only about 35, 45 minutes from here. So, but we visited them a lot. So yeah, so we whelped that Bella litter, or she did.
Well, she did. Yeah. Very cool. Do you, there's a lot of discussion out there about males and females. Do you notice a pretty big difference in like how fast they mature or what they end up being? You've had success in both, so I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
I like them all differently, but for me, and it may just be the females I've had, I like the females, and I should probably get more females, because the females I find are much easier to train. They're a little bit more, they're not as defiant, I guess you'll say. They take the correction. They'll try to do the right things more so. But I end up having more male dogs because I find that they have a little bit. I kind of like the hard headedness. I kind of like the strong will that I find that they have more so than the females I've had. And I know that's not everybody, so I like them both, needless to say. And I've actually, up until now, always had a male and kind of a female. But right now, I have all male dogs. Yeah. But I am hoping to get a female here. I'm hoping to breed Rip to a really nice dog that Chuck McCall has him trained in Harley. She's a grand champion. And so hopefully that breeding, knock on wood, takes place this winter, and I plan on keeping a female out of that litter. So I'll get back in the female line. But
nice,
anyway.
Nice. So you got Rip and Smoke. Are those the two that you're still running?
I have Smoke, who's now retired. He's 12.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty old. Yeah.
He's retired. The last crown was his retirement party. So we ran that, and that was it for him. I have Rip, who's going to be 6, July the 21st. And about just over a year ago, I bought a dog named Chop, who is he's 4. So now, he was 3 when I bought him. Okay. So he was I got him from a guy down here that does field trials. So he was amateur trained, with field trial trained, and he's a nice dog. He's a lot of dog. He's a Clooney dog. So he's one of those you talk about, probably a little late mature as for a male and dogs in general. But Rip, I'd say, was the opposite. Rip matured really early. So he's
my fox puppy. Yeah, I had I bought a puppy from Lonnie that you Sassy and Fox were bred, and
Okay.
I had a dog out of that breeding, and he was so mature, so focused, like, and just I loved training him as a puppy. Then they bred Sassy to Grady, and I got one of those, and he's a completely different dog, like not even close. And so just I don't know if that's just Fox throws that extreme focus, but you look at the retriever results, and I think number 2 is Fox for top Derby dogs.
Well, yeah.
Anyway,
when I was looking for, you're going to talk about breeding a little bit, just kind of, I don't know if this is where you want to go with this or not, but
we're going wherever it takes us.
But when I was looking to breed Bella, and Bella was a great dog. Bella's biggest problem is she had me for an owner. If she would have had an older gentleman or somebody that just really wanted to run hunt tests, they could have done all they wanted. She was just very steady, very stable, run any blind you want. I think she passed 3 grands. She passed 34 master tests out of 36. She only had 2. I mean, just really consistent hunt test dog. But me, and I did, but it took a while. Wanted to run the SRS. So and she was good. She was real good. But she could run blinds like you wouldn't believe. Marking and that big retired bird. Not that it was her fault. It's kind of the way she was brought up. Wasn't her favorite thing to do, but she would do it. So when I got ready to look for males, I knew Lauren from way back when we kind of she first kind of got into it, and so I watched Slider, and I'd reached out one time about breeding Bella the Slider, but it was she really didn't have a full heat cycle. So then Fox came on the scene, and then I went, like you said, went to retreat, and what I wanted to pair is, okay, Bella's she's the pinnacle of consistency. She finishes everything. I said I want that same consistency, but I want to get more oomph in there, a little bit more horsepower in there. So I was looking at Fox. I'm like, okay, he finishes everything. He finishes and he places, and so I reached out to Lauren and consulted with some friends of mine, actually, Scott Arsenault. I had a couple males, like, hey, which one do you think these pair up? And he was like, I would go with Fox. And I said, well, that's where I was leaning, but I just wanted you to go along with, because I had some other friends, Mark Polke had just bred his female to Fox, and so it needs to say I did, and she had 7 puppies. I was actually supposed to take a female, and wanted a female, because that's how I kind of got off, because I had Bella, and then Smoke, and then who was younger, then I was going to follow up with another female, and she only had 2, and I had deposits on 4. So, and Grace had agreed. She wanted a female for whelping, it was the deal we cut. She's like, I wanted the female. So fine. So I ended up, I said, tell you what, because I didn't really have anybody who wanted males when they were born. I said, I'll just switch and take pick male. And Rip just stood out to me in that litter. I mean, it was just, I don't know. You said
there was only 2 puppies, or did I miss something?
No, there was 2 females. They had
2
7.
females. Gotcha.
2 females.
7, 5 males. Okay.
5
you might have
males.
said that. I just missed it.
And I may have said it wrong. I'm sorry. But it only had 2 females. And, out the litter, so I was like, well, I'll go with the male, and sometimes things happen for a reason. Nothing that anything's wrong with those females. I mean, one's qualified all age, and the other's Master Hunter HRCH. But when it's probably one of the best decisions I ever made in the dog world was changing my pick from a female to taking a male in that litter.
Yeah, well, it sure has worked out for you. And so with Rip, you're running. You won the crown. I know you're running some AMs, right? Is that what I've been seeing?
And some field trials?
Yeah.
Yes. I actually have run him in some opens and some AMs. I started, doing that. And, man, he's had a pretty good spring. We started off really good. The first field trial we ran was Acadiana here, and it's about 2 hours from my house. And 94 dog open. Ooh. And with Farmer, and
some real names.
Some real names. JD, who's a good friend of mine, and so all these guys and we ended up getting second in the open and second in the AM, which is a 63 dog AM as well. So 2 big ones. If we start off the field trial series spring really good. I mean, I think they call that a Polish doubleheader or something like that in the field trial. But anyway, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. You know, it's
representing the Hunt Test game real good right there, Ron. Appreciate that.
So we ran some more. We had another jam or two, but yeah. So that was that. So we all running some. The problem is not the problem is, and I guess the good thing is here is that I train Rip. I don't send him off. Is that the field trial world is most true field trialers, even the amateurs. I mean, they're here and then now they're north. They're running probably 20 trials a year, 20 to 25.
Yeah, they're all up in my land right now,
right?
Hanging out with me.
Yeah, I run 6 to 8. Yeah. So you got to make them count, and you got to run them when you can. Which I'm really glad that this past Grand, Chuck took Rip to the Grand for me and got his Grand Pass and Grand title. So now we got that. So now we're really his focus will be forward is running field trials and of course the SRS stuff too. So yeah, he's got seven all age points now. So he's got a few fourths and some jams as well. But those 2 seconds were a lot of fun and very very memorable weekend for sure.
Yeah, to do it in a weekend is that's almost. I mean, it could be a once in a lifetime thing.
Oh yeah, driving home, which was I was happy and sad is because I didn't really know where I was in the open. We got to the last. And it's just like some are handling, some are doing it, some of this, and some work was better than others. So I'm like, I said, my mind's like, I know because it was 94 dogs. I didn't see all the dogs runs. Like I said, I feel like I'm at least third or fourth, here. And then I went there. In the AM, I knew I was in a really really good spot because he just really killed the first, ran a great land blinds, ran a great water blind. And as it would have it, that last bird, that long retired water bird, he got it, but he put on a pretty big hunt, and the one who won didn't, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but hey, it was a lot of fun.
Man, I got so many questions now.
Okay.
For those that I've asked other field trialers this, but have you? What's the difference between an AM and an open in a field trial?
From the test standpoint, or just
in general? Just in general.
In general, but with me, and like I said, I'm limited. I've only been running trials for a few years, but in a few opens. But mainly in the open, they can be longer, they can be tighter sometimes, but it really comes down to the dog work. Like, most times, the most that I've run, it's going to be a triple with 2 retired, and you can hunt one bird, but you better not hunt them both. So it's that competitive. And you'll get dropped for being clean. You can pick up the first set of marks clean and not get called back just because you had a little hunt here and a little hunt there. But it's all, of course, relative to the other dog work. But if you get there, and they will call back some bigger hunts if nobody's doing the work. So, but it's all relative. But for the most part, and that's what I find is the difference in the AM. You can get it clean and have a little bit bigger hunt on you can probably hunt 2 some. You still can't have big gorilla hunts. You still got to do some good work.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest thing is that there's not the dog work is so good. Your margin for error is so small in the open. It's almost no margin for error because then even as it goes into the blinds, one cast refusal or one cast refusal at the wrong time, and or you get a little too wide on the blind, and you're done. Where in the AM, they'll give you a little bit there because there's less numbers to start with. So, but they're still very tough. And don't get me wrong, there's some very good AM dogs as well.
Yeah. So, okay, how with this transition from growing up? It sounds like you grew up in the AK or HRC, did AKC stuff, like. How have you changed in your training since really going after the SRS and now even more in transitioning into more field trial work?
The training has changed tremendously for the better, in my opinion. And it's I think a lot of times when we were starting out, we just threw marks, didn't really know kind of what we were doing. But now everything we do now or try to do has because everything tries to have a purpose. Hey, this is what we're going to work on today. We're going to work on long retireds past the flyer, Okay, and then that'll be the content. Then we'll mix in some other stuff. But it's changed so much that we used to do a lot of singles, and now we still do a lot of singles, but we do a lot of singles or lots of doubles, or broken singles and stuff like that. Lots of doubles, and we do some triples. I don't do a lot of triples, but the training has changed. I mean, of course, it's gotten. I mean, because a lot of the grounds we train on now are some of the same grounds that we trained on 30 years ago, 20 years ago. But what we do on the ground, these grounds now, is so different. It's so much further and so much more technical and things like that. And I've been fortunate that my parents bought into this passion of mine, and my dad and I have co-owned some dogs together. And that they've dug some training ponds on our property, so that's helped evolve. And the biggest thing too, I guess, yes, as far as training, is just the access to grounds. And I'm fortunate that I've built some friendships with some people around here that like I mentioned, JD Babb of Booyah Kennels. He lives 15 minutes from me, so he and I will. He's a friend of mine, and I'll try to do some training with him. But we'll swap places. Like, hey, you come to my place, I go to your place. And then there's, Justin Williams, who's an amateur field trialer from here, is also my great amateur field trialer. He has a nice set of grounds. So what we do is, and there's others too, just to mention those two guys, and that we swap grounds and things. And I guess the biggest thing is having access to good quality. We used to have access to a lot of grounds back in the years, but not quality water. So now we've got access, and not to mention, like, I'm 45 minutes from Leo Joseph's place, and I will go to Leo's and use his water, and they'll come here and come train. Same thing. We'll swap places. If they'll come here, I'll go there. So that's the biggest thing that has changed in my mind, just the way we do it and how we have a purpose now, and not just trying to run 3 marks in a blind. Now it's much more thought out and more technical about creating suction and running past guns and using flyers and past flyer stations and, short retires short of a long standout, and things like that, to where and that's where I talk about how, getting back to how much that's what I like to do, about training versus, I like to do that. I love to come up with concepts and train and see dogs not necessarily fail, but see dogs be successful at it. Or it's like, okay, we did this same concept 2 weeks ago and we're struggling out, and look, we're getting it. You're getting there. So, but it's, and the biggest thing is just the access to the knowledge of training, and what it is. I mean, there's just countless stuff out there now as far as information on setups and then why stuff happens. We used to set stuff up, and I was like, man, why did that happen?
That happens to me every day.
And now why. It's like, oh well, yeah, we created yes, So it's just, and I've trained, like I said, I've trained with a lot of the same guys for years and years. Like Chuck and I have been good friends and have trained together since '97. Mm-hmm. And it's always good to have him as a resource to bounce things off. Like, hey, this gave me trouble in this test today. Why did you think this gave me this? And then we'll hash it out. And I'll do the same thing. I was like, all right, I just ran this trial, and man, I couldn't get. This is what gave all the dogs trouble and gave mine particularly trouble, or not. Vice versa. And we hash it out and stuff like that. And even though, and now we've got Scott Arsenault back in the fold, and he's a book junkie when it comes. He's a knowledge junkie. He's all over trying to better and get to good equipment. And the equipment's so much better now. And everything's just better now than what it was when we first got into it.
So how's your training group broken up? How's your not broken up? That's the wrong word. How is your training group work? And are you training alone? Are you always training with somebody else? How does all that work?
It's a combination. I train alone less now than I did in years past. One thing that we do is we have a good group of, Chuck is really the only pro in our group. and we have a good group of amateurs. It's myself, it's Scott Arsenault, it's Casey Parker, it's David Lawrence, it's Charles Schutz, and it's these guys other than me and Casey and Chuck are kind of retired guys now, so that they come out but we all do different stuff. And the way we kind of break it up is, I train early because I go to work, so we get there, and like if we're running an SRS or a field trial, and we'll break up too, but it's all the whole groups. Like we'll set up and I'll do some field trial stuff, and then some will run that and some will modify it and break it down if they're doing master tests that week and change it and to fit theirs, well, after I leave, and then, or if we're doing SRS, we'll run those guys. So it's a good group of guys that all come together for a common denominator, and that's just to get better at whatever sport we're running. Because some of those guys don't run SRS, some of them don't run field trials, some of them just run hunt tests, and some of them just run the Grand, and but a lot of the training is the same, because that same training is going to, I think, now gets them all better. Mm-hmm. But we have a good group, and sometimes I still train by myself. Sometimes I still like to go run water blinds by myself, or do some drills by myself. I have drills I like to do by myself at times, but for the most part, it's me and one or two others, and then go from there. So,
yeah, you've kind of hit on two things that I've kind of felt like are essential. I mean, I haven't played the all age game. I've run a few field trials and a few SRSs, and you got to have the grounds. There's only so much you can do. As I used to do, is hoboing around at retention ponds and stuff like I think you can have success at the Grand, and HRC and AKC stuff doing that. But man, trying to play any sort of really competitive thing, you got to have the grounds. And the other thing that I think really does make a difference is having a good training group. You watch all these groups kind of develop of 4, 5, 6 people, and then they grow up together. Those dogs grow up together, and you really see them start to just line up some success. A great group is Justin Hergert's group of amateurs that he's got rolling there. I mean, those get when I first started running SRSs, I know they were running, but I didn't hear of them. But now Kevin and Leah, they're just killing it. It's just
they show up. But used to, and that's the thing that's changed about the SRS. I mean, especially in the AM, I was one of the few who would show up with 2 dogs, because I always want 2 dogs. I figured out, and you know that. That's why you have multiple dogs. The more times you go to the line, the better, because somebody's going to have an off day. Or you may have an off day. You may have an off run. But, hey, if you got another bullet, well, that's good. Well, and 2 was kind of – and then there were several who had 2. Well, now, you got Kevin and Lee and some others. They show up 4 and 5. So, I mean, it's but it's the name of the game, because they've figured out – because, one, they've all got different ages, kind of like all of us. I've got Rip, and then I've got Chop, who's kind of the younger one coming along. And I like to run Rip. I run Rip in the open, and I run Chop in the AM. And part of that too, just kind of go to and I enjoy running the open. And I've done that with Smoke and Rip after they got their amateur crown title. I decided I'm qualified for life with them, so let's go try to run the open and get the SRS champion title, which Rip now has it. Smoke never got it. He had many seconds, thirds, and fourths, but never could get the win. But Rip has the title, and but I think even running field trials and in the open and the SRS makes me better as a handler, because it's no time off. You've got to focus. You've got to dial in on every bird, every whistle, every cast. Because the margin for error is none. If you're gonna finish, and I think that helps me personally get ready for those other events, get ready for the crown. So when the stakes are a little bit higher and the pressure's a little bit more, and that's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So when you're bringing up a young dog, you're talking about getting this new dog, are you what are you doing different now versus what you maybe did 5-10 years ago?
Let's use Rip as an example, because what I did is with Rip, what I did when I had that litter is, and when I got that puppy, is like, I want to build this dog to be an SRS crown champion. That was my goal, and all the other stuff's good too. So, but the end of the goal was that. So, what I did with him was brought him up with a huge white coat background. Everything was white. As soon as he was able to, and that's funny. I found a video of him the other day with my daughter, and had 3 stick man out and had her throwing bumpers from him. It's just getting used to seeing the white in the field. Singles off multiple guns, fighting factors, big swims is what I did with him, and how I in my mind, built him up for that, because I wanted him to be good at the white coat game, or see how good he could be. You never know. But I was like, I'm going to expose it to him, and I did lots of white coat stuff. And then I think the natural progression is, but mixed in, so that I think it becomes natural to them when you run the various, especially in SRS, where you're running a white coat today and running a hunt test tomorrow, maybe even the same day, is still mixing in, hey, as a young age, throwing some, not really hidden guns, but shooting over him a little bit, having like a started test, as a puppy, shooting, so that you're exposing him to all of that. So none of it, in my mind, none of it's foreign to him down the road. So he's comfortable with it because he's known it all his life. He's seen the white, he's heard the duck calling, he's been shot over, and mixing that in too, but primarily focusing on the field trial aspect of it. And I brought him up, ran him in 3 derbies. First time I've ever run derbies with a dog ever. And we got a jam in one. Of course, when I was running derbies was the same age as some guys down here running it who are now have FCA. I don't know if you know Matt Miller, but he has he had 2 great females, and Raven and Breeze, and now they're FCAFCs, and we were running with them. And I ran my first derby with Fancy against Fancy, and of course she won. And then, but anyway, so he got he got a jam, and then he kind of aged out of that. So at that point, I'm like, okay, I started working on the hunt test stuff. So I still field trial trained at that point, because he didn't have, which is funny, Rip won an SRS before he was ever an HRCH or a Master Hunter. Because of just the way that he ran a few tests, but I didn't push to get the titles, because the ultimate goal was
the crown.
More.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, but I didn't run him. He didn't run any, and I don't really run any. He didn't run any lower level hunt tests. He ran finished and master. So he actually got his HRCH right after winning his first amateur, which he won at 2.5, which was kind of cool. And then so the natural progression was with him was, okay, we did the hunt test stuff, got his HRCH, got his master title, then started mixing him in some qualifyings in there. Ran him in a few qualifyings, not a lot, got a 3rd in a qualifying in there. And then just at that point, he was 3, and he won the crown at 3. And I was like, wow, I knew he was good. I knew he was special. I knew he was intelligent, highly intelligent for a dog. Most intelligent dog I've ever had my hands on and fooled with. And when he won the crown, and it was all kind of the perfect storm, because we were training, he was getting better and getting better and getting better. I was like, man, he's really doing good here. He was, and that was, what was funny was, everything happens, because I was training hard. I didn't run him in the Grand. I didn't run him or Smoke in the Grand. I did send him to the Grand. Did send him to the National. Wanted to run the crown because it was last. So we train. And as it ends up, Rip came in first and Smoke came in second that year. But as he got into it, man, it just really, really started clicking for him, putting it all together. That right before that crown. And then since then he went on, and that next year I ran him in the amateur in the crown, and actually won 4 amateurs that year. And if I'd have ran him in the open, there were 2 of them I was the lowest place, so he would have had his open title.
Yeah.
But hey, that's okay. So it took a little longer, but I kind of get sidetracked there. But
Well, he saved you a couple $100 is what happened.
He did. He did that. But as far as what we train now is how the training's changed too. What I do a lot of now is when we get into SRS season, I do a lot of hybrid training, I guess, in the same setup. Because we'll come out and you know, because time's limited. Like I don't have time in the mornings to come do a setup and then do a field trial setup and come back that afternoon and do a field hunt test or whatever. So we'll mix in, like we may do a field trial double in a blind or something, and then walk over, grab the shotgun, load 3 shells, and run another hunt test double in a blind. You know them off, run a poison bird. So I've mixed that up, and I think by doing that too helps them being able to go from one to the other.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And a good transition, because that's what makes the it makes the SRS so special, is being able to change different schools quickly from back to back. So and I think if and now with Chop, you know, he had the field trial background, so now he's getting the hunt test background too and building it in there. But we still, I mean, if you're going to ask our focus of what primarily I train on, I'm probably training more field trial stuff, 75 to 85% of what we do in training now compared to the hunt test stuff.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, and that's kind of what I hear most folks say.
At the end of the day, you know, they're different games, but the dogs in the SRS marking is imperative. The dog, and that's what you see the trend is, and there's like the dogs that can pick up the big field trial test clean and do the other stuff good are the ones who are there at the end of the day. They're in the top 6, most part, you know. But if especially in the open, if you can't pick up the field trial series clean, you're not moving on.
Yeah,
you know. So I think that's where you got to do all the other stuff too. Don't get me wrong, but that's what I think is important, and that's kind of the trend. If you look where these people the dogs that are running and people that are getting dogs are getting dogs and are having success with dogs that have these field trial backgrounds. It came up in field trial background, you know, either some's called washouts or whatever you want to say, or you know that are buying off these field trial trucks. Those are the ones that right now look like they're doing well. The other ones are doing good too. And I think if you can build one from the ground up, it still gives you your best advantage.
Yeah,
but it's just the patience in doing it.
Yeah, it takes a lot more time.
Yes, it does.
A lot more time. The man, that's all really, really, really solid stuff. I'm not surprised by any of your answers, but a few of the nuances I really liked. Like definitely doing the hybrid setup at the same time. It sounds like you're typically doing one setup a day, based on what you said. But you might be hybriding those. It makes a lot of sense.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, on the weekends, I can get in 2 setups a day where we'll kind of do some stuff, but pretty much one setup a day. So and that's the biggest thing. You've got to figure out in your training how to maximize your time and maximize and be efficient and get the most, especially now, as hot as it is now. You know, we get started and we have a plan and you roll through the dogs. You know.
Yeah. So most of the audience is amateurs that are running, different level hunt tests and some lower stakes field trials. But what is like something that you wish somebody told you, maybe 25 years ago, not quite 30, but 25 years ago?
Wish somebody would have told me 25 years ago that it's not a race. Take your time and do it right. Have a good foundation, have good basics. It's not about having the youngest hunting retriever champion or the youngest master hunter and getting us. It's about building a solid foundation, exposing them to what they need to, and that's exposing them to the cover, exposing them to water, exposing them to big swims. It's not about getting in a hurry. It's about having a solid foundation And that's one thing that's improved a whole lot in the dog world now. Is that, I remember when early 2000s, man, everybody was like, oh man, this dog's got its HRCH at 15 months and this and that, but it's not about that. It's about having a solid young dog. Because if you have a solid young dog with some talent, you can go a long way. Solid basics and talent. You can play a lot of games with that dog for a long time.
That's really solid. Who besides Chuck, who have you kind of looked up to in the game that have kind of like helped you along the way? I know Chuck's played a big role in that.
To be quite honest with you, I've trained with a lot of people. And I don't mean this. I've trained with a lot of people, and a lot of people have kind of trained with me. But since I've always been an amateur, I've kind of cut my own path with my group, that being Chuck and Scott and Casey and them. But I've looked up to and amateurs that I looked up to, and never really trained with them too. Like when I first got into is Bobby Lane, field trial guy on Ali. I actually first field trials I ever ran Boomer in, which we had no business running an amateur, but we did finish one, and watching Ali run, and that was some of the best dog work I've ever seen in my life. Which inspired me to get Smoke and to want to have Bella, who were both out of Ali, and who look up. Rick Mock was a guy that was in the field trial world who mentored me some. I'd ask questions and do stuff with. But, really, the people I looked up to as a young trainer really weren't people here. It was Mike Lardy videotapes, because that's what I had. That's where I learned. That's where I learned to force fetch. That's what I wore out a VCR. So and then I figured, in reading and picking up bits and pieces from farmers' information and things like that. And then now. Unfortunately, like I said, I train with JD some. And JD's got a lot. He's a young field trial trainer. He's got a lot of knowledge, a lot of good dogs, and a good guy. And I've recently now too, who's full of dog information, that have trained with and gone to one of the seminars with Ryan Brasso. And I've talked to Ryan. I've been to a seminar with Brian, and a lot of information there too. And like I said, there's always my group here that we bounce things off of. And when I first got into it, people I looked up to in the hunt test world, never really trained but admired and watched what they did, was Bill Autry, Barry Lyons, those guys, because those were the guys, and they still are. Those were the guys when I first got into it. You watch Cody run, you wanted to see those dogs run, and things like that. And you wanted to have a dog like that one day.
Yeah, absolutely. So what is what does the future hold for Ron and in your two dogs that you'll be running?
Well, the future holds for hopefully figuring out how to get Chop qualified for the Crown. He's got a fifth, so we need 2 more points. So I've got at least one event for sure, because Amy Rivers hosts an event in August, and then 1 or 2 more to hopefully try to get him qualified. And then for him, get him qualified for the Crown, run some trials. And then for Rip, the future holds me trying to, hopefully have a really good Crown. I'd like to, like I said, Chuck actually got his title and qualified him for the Crown in the Open division this year. So I'd like to get him qualified in there so that I could have the option of, do I run him in the Open or do I run him in the AM, which I'll probably run in the AM anyway. But I'd like to have that option, and then really, really want to focus on with both of them, but really Rip in the fall and the spring, trying to maybe get that AFC title.
That would be so cool.
That would be really cool. I've had QAs, QA2s. I've owned 4 SRS amateur champions, 3 Crown champions. I've never had an FC AFC. Or either an FC or an AFC in that matter. But that's kind of what it holds, and hopefully, you mentioned in the future that you mentioned Lonnie Burns.
Yeah.
Lonnie has a dog named Strawberry,
Yep. I did strawberries basics. Like
Oh, really?
yeah,
Okay.
I had, well, I shouldn't say basics. I didn't do it. I can't remember if I force fetched her, but yeah, he, he had too many dogs at the time. And that
Mm-hmm.
was when I was getting my fox puppy from him.
Okay.
And so, right after I got my fox puppy, he gave me that dog and I had it for like 2 to 3 months or so. So I know, I mean, I don't know her well. She grew up and, you know, did her
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
But I
That's
remember
neat.
her there's a picture of her at a block party sitting on a curb and just looking like the littlest little yellow dog ever. And all these people are loving on her. But yeah, no, I know Strawberry. Yep.
Okay. Well, Strawberry's a smoke puppy.
Yep.
Okay. Lonnie reached out to me about breeding Strawberry to Rip. So if that takes place, in that pedigree will be all 3 of my amateur crown champions under one pedigree.
Wow, that's cool.
So
That's pretty cool. That would be
That
neat.
would be pretty neat. So I would definitely, my dogs would definitely put their mark on that pedigree.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very
And
good.
you know, so and hopefully, I think you mentioned a buddy of yours has a Rip puppy.
Yep, Tyler Gunderson has a Rip puppy, not
Gotcha.
Brenner, but yeah. So he's really excited. He sent me one photo so far, and I'm like, looks like a cute black lab.
Yeah.
what do you say at the beginning? You know, it's a cute little dog. You know, it's exciting. You know, but man, it makes me want a black lab. I have a lot of yellows. It's just the way it's turned out, but I love the way a black lab looks.
I do too. I've come close to owning some yellows, but I've never have. I've always owned males that are yellow factored or like chocolate factored. Rip's, of course, yellow factored. But I've never owned a yellow male or yellow dog in general. Been close, but never pulled the trigger on one.
Yeah.
Always
Very
had black ones. So.
Well, we went just under an hour here, Ron. I really appreciate you taking time out of your training schedule and doing everything to jump on the podcast and share some of your story and your wisdom. It's been a really good episode. I really appreciate it. Thanks for doing it.
Oh, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it.